Hello there, welcome to another episode of Overlooked Games, where I take a look at games which had some really cool ideas or mechanics or some other interesting aspect of game design that didn't quite get the recognition they deserved, and so in that regard are somewhat overlooked. This episode is about Stacking, a 2011 puzzle adventure game developed by Double Fine Productions and published by THQ. In Stacking, you play as Charlie Blackmore, the youngest and smallest in a family of Russian dolls, where you can stack into dolls larger than yourself in order to exploit their unique abilities and solve puzzles. And this in itself is a pretty unique mechanic, but what I love about Stacking, and what I think is an overlooked idea worthy of more attention, is how every single puzzle in the game has multiple solutions. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of puzzle games where the mechanics are deep and complex enough to always accommodate multiple possible solutions to a problem, or games where the rules and mechanics can be pushed and exploited to allow for new and unexpected methods of solving a problem. I'm thinking of the more classic adventure style puzzle game, you know, the kind where the puzzles and the solutions are scripted and involve a very specific interaction with items or the environment, which is where Stacking would fit in, except here the developers have designed scenarios in which there are always multiple scripted ways to approach a problem. For example, on the Gilded Steamship, you're tasked with inciting a mutiny by convincing 4 separate VIP passengers to confront the captain, and each of these VIPs has 4 or 5 different methods in which you can convince them to go along with your cause, and I love this idea for a couple of reasons. Firstly, anyone remotely familiar with adventure puzzle games has surely encountered that moment when you hit the wall. You know, when you get stuck and you're convinced you've tried absolutely everything, been absolutely everywhere, and you genuinely have no idea what you're supposed to do next, so you have to either keep fumbling around in the dark, wasting God knows how long, or consult a guide, which, if you're like me, you hate having to resort to doing. And while there is certainly a joy in that eureka moment when and if something eventually clicks and you figure it out after having been stuck for ages, a lot of the time it can be pretty frustrating as a player to feel like the game has just stopped dead in its tracks, where the story, the action, the gameplay, everything just stops and waits for you to work out what arbitrary conditions are required to progress. Stacking offers a remedy to that problem. With multiple solutions to any given puzzle, it means there is far less chance of you hitting the wall and gameplay coming to a grinding halt during your playthrough. Have you ever been stuck in a puzzle game and thought, I know what will work, and tried something out, convinced that your logic and reasoning will pay off, only to find out it doesn't, and you're left thinking, why couldn't that have been a solution? Well, in Stacking there's a good chance it would have been. The game rewards that kind of ingenuity. It encourages you to jump into different dolls and try out their abilities in different situations and see what happens. It's great to see a puzzle adventure game that actually fosters experimentation rather than feeling restrictive, like you're being asked to jump through very specific hoops in order to succeed. And the second reason I love this idea is because it's a fantastic incentive for repeat playthroughs. Most adventure puzzle games, where there's only one possible solution to every puzzle, means once you've beaten the game, you know how every puzzle is solved, and well, that's more or less it in terms of what the gameplay has to offer. So whereas most games like this tend to offer replay value via the story in the form of multiple choice dialogue options or different endings, Stacking encourages you to go back and revisit every single puzzle and find the many different solutions for each one. It's actually really not that dissimilar to Hitman, where there's a joy in returning to a level and seeing how you can accomplish the same goal in different ways, using different people's outfits to gain new abilities or access to different areas. So if you like that particular aspect of Hitman, Stacking might be something worth checking out. I really think that multiple puzzle solutions is a fantastic idea, one which Stacking itself actually doesn't even come close to fully realising the potential of. The game is pretty easy, as it's designed to be accessible to an audience perhaps unfamiliar with the genre, so while finding every solution to every puzzle might provide a mild challenge, the nature of the gameplay means the answer is never too far from hand, and experienced players won't find much of a challenge. But imagine a game that offered multiple solutions with varying difficulties. Like, there'd always be a kind of obvious solution, or the easy option, but if you thought hard enough there'd be a more clever or efficient way of solving something. And perhaps it could somehow reward players who choose the more difficult path over the easy one. Imagine a game that incorporated Stacking's multiple puzzle solutions into an open-ended story, where solving a puzzle one way could lead to different story events or even different locations entirely, essentially allowing for 2 totally different experiences depending on how you've solved puzzles. Now, I'm not saying I want every puzzle game to offer multiple solutions. Like I said earlier, there is a certain appeal to overcoming that wall, but it's definitely an idea with a lot more potential than we've currently seen, and I would love to see more developers play around with the idea, especially since this is a genre that was once all but dead and has thankfully seen a bit of a resurgence in recent years. So this is the kind of innovation I think we need to celebrate and encourage if we want the genre to still be alive and well in the years to come. thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me what innovations you'd like to see in the genre, or if there are any games with interesting ideas or mechanics that you think I should check out for future episodes. Huge thank you to the following people who have kindly supported this channel on Patreon: Paul Cocker, Ellie Lou, Ossian Elausen, Carlos Zuniga and Jared Wantaja. Your generosity means I can get myself a nice new mouse for editing to replace my old one, which just recently broke unexpectedly, so thanks again. If you'd like to get thanked in the credits as well as get some other cool rewards, you can check out my Patreon page using the link below to find out more, and also follow me on Twitter @ThinReaper, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.